My name is Sam Ridley. When the cities went quiet, and they did go quiet, whatever the emergency broadcast kept promising in those first few days, I ran for the one place I was certain nothing would follow me: a cemetery. Hillcrest, the old one up on the ridge, with the stone chapel and the iron gate, and graves that go back the better part of 200 years. I want to tell you why that made sense to me. And then I want to tell you why it was the worst decision I have ever made. So that if you're still out there, still looking for somewhere to hide, you don't make the same one. Here was my thinking. The infected go where the living are. That's the first thing everyone learns, usually too late. They follow sound. They follow movement. They pour toward crowds, toward noise, toward the places people run to. The hospitals, the shelters, the police stations with their doors that were never built to hold anything out. So I did the opposite of what everyone else did. I went uphill, away from town, to the one walled place with nothing alive in it. A graveyard has no crowd to draw them. It's stone and grass and quiet. It has a wall higher than a man and one iron gate, and I had a chain and a padlock I'd taken from a hardware store on the way up. For a while, it worked. God help me, it actually worked. The chapel was the heart of it, a squat little mortuary church, all dark stone and a slate roof gone green with moss, a heavy oak door that I could bar from the inside. There was a caretaker's tap round the back that still ran cold water for the first 2 weeks. There were tools in the shed. There was, in the office, a kettle and a tin of tea bags and a cot that some groundskeeper had clearly been sleeping on long before any of this started. I had walls. I had water. I had high ground and a single gate I could watch from the chapel steps. I told myself I had won. I told myself I was the smartest coward left alive. Let me describe a night up there so you understand how quiet it was. The wind would come up the ridge and move through the cypress trees along the east wall, and that was the loudest thing for miles. No engines, no sirens anymore, no screaming from the valley. That had stopped in the second week, and I tried not to think about what the silence meant. Just the wind and the cold, and me under a blanket on the chapel steps, watching the gate and the long rows of headstones going gray then black as the light went. It was the most peaceful I had felt since the world came apart. I even slept. The gate is where it started. Of course it was the gate. That's the one thing I watched. It was maybe the 18th night. I woke because something was wrong with the quiet. Not a sound exactly, more the absence of the wind, and under it, a kind of low shifting, like a crowd breathing. I came up off the cot and went to the chapel door and looked out toward the gate, and there they were. 3 of them, standing at the iron bars, not moving, not moaning. They don't moan, that's another thing the films got wrong. Just standing, faces to the gap, the way people stand at a shop window before it opens. I went cold all over. But I'd chained that gate myself. I watched them until the sky went gray, and they drifted off down the hill, and I told myself, fine, 3. The wall held, the gate held. This is survivable. The next night there were 9. The night after, more than I could count in the dark, packed along the whole east wall now, not just the gate, a gray line of them pressed to the stone, faces up toward the chapel, toward me. And I did what I learned to do. I went silent. I killed the little candle. I didn't move, didn't cough, didn't so much as shift my weight on the boards. Because they follow sound, they follow movement, and if you give them nothing, they lose interest and wander off. They did not wander off. They came every night after that, more each time, and I could not for the life of me understand what was drawing them. I was one man being quieter than a stone. There was nothing up here to want. I found the answer in the caretaker's office, and I almost wish I hadn't.
There was a ledger, a big cloth-bound book, decades of it.
every plot and every name, and clipped inside the front cover a typed summary sheet some council clerk had done up years ago. Interments to date. I read the number 3 times before it went in. 11,400 and something. 11,000 people in the ground. Under the grass I'd been sleeping on. Under the chapel. In the little brick crypt below my feet that I'd been using to store my tins. And I sat there with that ledger in my lap, and I finally let myself hear the thing I'd been refusing to hear for 2 nights. The infected at the wall weren't trying to get in. They were answering something inside. Because whatever this is, this sickness, this thing that stands people back up, it was never only about the freshly killed. That was just the part we saw first, in the streets, where the dying were new. Up here it had reached down, into the soil, into 200 years of the buried. It doesn't care how long you've been under, it only cares that you're there. I heard it that night for the first time, once I knew to listen for it. Not from the wall, from below. A sound in the crypt under the chapel. A slow, patient scraping. Fingers or what used to be fingers working at the underside of the world. And out across the graveyard, in the dark, the ground itself moving. Not much. Just a settling, a shifting. The way soil moves when something beneath it is turning over, testing, remembering how to push. The ones at the wall weren't the threat. The ones at the wall were just the first to have already gotten out. I want to be clear about the mistake, because it's the whole point of me telling you this. I chose the cemetery because nothing living was in it. I never once thought about what was already dead in it. I built my safe little fortress on top of the single largest gathering of them for miles in any direction. Sealed myself inside a wall that was very good at keeping things in. And then I sat there for 18 nights feeling clever, while 11,000 of them woke up under my feet, one slow inch at a time. I left before dawn. I'm not going to tell you the details of getting out, past the wall, down the ridge, because some of it I don't remember, and the rest I don't want to. I'll only tell you that the gate I'd chained, the one I'd trusted, the one I'd watched every single night, the gate was never the way out. The way out was through the graves, and by then, the graves were awake. I'm somewhere else now, lower down, moving, never more than a night in one place. I don't trust walls anymore. I don't trust quiet. And I will never again make the mistake of thinking a place is safe just because the living aren't there. So here's the only thing I have worth passing on. If you're out there, and you're cold, and you find some walled, quiet place on a hill that feels like it was waiting to keep you safe, before you chain the gate behind you, before you let yourself sleep, get down on your knees and put your hand flat on the ground. And make absolutely sure that nothing down there is moving. Because a graveyard is not empty. It is the fullest place there is. And the walls I loved so much were only ever good for one thing: keeping me in there with them.